Do you start recording now?
All right. Oh,
Okay, hi, everybody. Welcome to another version of something. We'll have some fun today anyway. We'll see what happens, but I'm glad to see all of you. It's always nice to take a look at some very beautiful people every day. I do have a couple of announcements I want to share with you. I do want to mention that we're still doing our podcast, and tomorrow at 6 p.m., we're doing another podcast on compassion fatigue. Okay, and basically we're really kind of to people that really have been kind of first responders. And I also refer to as mothers and fathers as first responders going through this whole pandemic. So if you're interested, Barbara Focaccio, who's one of our counselors, she's really good, is going to be doing that at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. So if you're interested, just go to the website, and the Zoom numbers are on the website. Okay, and then next week, Pat Opes, who's our grief and loss counselor, will be doing a podcast on ambiguous loss. It should really be good. Pat does a great job. And that'll be at 7 o'clock, right, Lorette? Let me make sure I got it right. You're muted.
I'm going to look it up while you're talking.
I'm pretty sure it's 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, all right. So anyway, all of our podcasts, if you want to check them out, are on our YouTube channel under the education page. And we've done about 6 or 7 or 8 of them now. So you can see them all there, from anger management, grief and loss, addiction. We did one on gambling. The one I did on spirituality and sports. You can check them all out. They're kind of neat and a lot of fun.
And Vince,
Yes,
Pat's ambiguous loss is at 6 p.m. next week.
6 p.m. Okay. So tomorrow, 6 p.m., next week, 6 p.m. also. So 6 p.m. both weeks. I'll tell you about that next week too. We can't pass the basket, so we do have a Venmo number, and that's in the chat room. And if you can help us out in any way, we truly would appreciate it. So thank you for that too. All right, I want to kind of get ready for today's talk, because basically we're going to be beginning a new series today on spiritual journey through the 12 steps. This is one of my favorite series. It's a series I did a long time ago. I kind of bringing it back, and I really want to have a lot of fun with it. And I want to kind of kick it off today with a talk on spirituality, the foundation of the 12 steps. So before we do that, though, I want to kind of begin by doing a reading. And as part of my meditation this morning, I really enjoyed this. It's from the Woman's Meditation book, Each Day a New Beginning. And it's funny how God does this stuff. It kind of fits right into our topic for today. Every human being has, like Socrates, an attended spirit. The wise are they who obey its signals. It does not always tell us what to do. It always cautions us what not to do. Our spirit is our inner guide, and our spirit never gives us the wrong directions. Because we're human, it's very too easy for us to deny the voice from within. Some may call it conscience. Our behavior may frequently, maybe occasionally, belies what our conscience knows we should do. And sometimes we suffer for that. We are trying to be healthy emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Each day we can make progress. With each action we take, we have a choice. Our spirit, our conscience should be consulted. Good choices make for good actions that will emotionally and spiritually benefit us and other persons close to us. It's comforting to rely on our inner voice. It assures us we're never alone. No decision has to be made alone. No action need never be taken alone. A sense of security accompanies the partnership between each of us and our spirit. I will let the partnership of my spirit work for me today. I wanted to share that because I kind of love this talk, but I got to tell you the story. I got to start off with a story today. And the story goes back to the year 1977. That's actually close to 43 years ago. In 1977, I was still a priest. I dropped a lady off for treatment at a treatment center in Northeast Philly called Riverside House. And I had lunch with the staff, And about 10 minutes to 1, the director, Bill, said to me, he said, Vince, why don't you give the talk at 1 o'clock today? I said, Bill, it's 10 of 1. He said, don't worry about it. Just give the talk to the residents. And so I did. I got up because back in those days, I didn't know how to say no. I said yes to everything because I really qualify as a good codependent. So I got up and I said, what do you want me to talk to you about? I said, talk about spirituality. So I talked for about 35, 40 minutes. When I was done, Bill came up to me and he said, that was pretty damn good, he said. Why don't you come back once a month and give the same talk? I said, Bill, I'd love to. I have no idea what I said. Bill said, don't worry, I taped it. We had tapes back then. I taped it. He gave me the tape. I played it in my car on the way home. And it was pretty damn good. I got a lot out of it. It's pretty fantastic. You know, I would never forget that day because it's like there was a day of birth for me. Because up to that point, I never really did too many lectures and things to that effect. But that became what I call my signature lecture. And from that day on, I used that working in rehabs. I worked them in places and probably have given the foundation of this talk probably about 300 times. So you think I'd have it down by now, right? But it keeps changing as we go through it. So anyway, I want to share that with you today because to me, it is the foundation of so many things we do in recovery. It's the foundation of our recovery. It's about the concept of spirituality. I want to clarify right from the beginning. To look at the word spiritual and spirituality, we have to understand what it means. Believe it or not, the word itself has nothing to do with religion at all, although it's used in religion. The word spiritual or spirituality means to come to an awakening of my personal spirit. Our spirit is the part of us that makes us who we are. Our spirit is our energy. It's what gives life to our body. And so as a result, then our spirit is something that basically we share and connect to with others. And so we talk about spirituality. The 12 steps fundamentally are a spiritual program that teach us self-love, self-awareness, self-discovery, a beautiful sense of ourself as a person. And what I love so much about the 12 steps, the first 11 steps are for us to work on ourselves, to get to know ourselves. And then having done your work, in the 12th step, it says to carry the message and share it with others. And so I want to really concentrate on those steps and take you through them using the foundation of spirituality, which is the core of it. So whenever I talk about spirituality, I always talk what I refer to as the 4 spiritual questions and the 5 spiritual principles. And we'll concentrate on them today. The 4 spiritual questions. Question number 1, do you love yourself? One of the hardest things in the world to do is to build a personal relationship with yourself as a person. I know in my own journey, in my own life, it took me a long time to even understand this. I never knew it was okay for me to fall in love with myself. Sounds kind of strange, doesn't it? But really, in reality, if I don't love myself, I cannot love anybody else. How can you give something away if you don't have it? And so it starts from the inside. The second question is, do you like yourself? My name is Vince DePasquale. I happen to be the only Vince DePasquale there is on the face of the earth. And please don't say, thank God. Okay, Carol, you got that? And so basically, I'm the only one there is of me. So I'm the only one who has to like me. If nobody else does, they're missing something really special. We have to be able to look at ourselves and look at that in a positive way. So to love yourself and to like yourself is to accept the reality of who you are. Each one of us is unique. Each one of us is special. And we have a hard time sometimes accepting who we are and to stop comparing ourselves to others and live within the reality of our own personal self. For each one of us is a gift given to us by God. We have to be able to celebrate that gift and be who we are. Our spirit, our energy makes us who we are. The third question is, do you respect and do you honor yourself? So I have to excuse myself now because I'm going to have to curse. Hope you don't mind me cursing. I really hate to curse, but I could run 4-letter words past you all day long. I was a prison chaplain for 9 years, worked in halfway houses. I think I heard them all. I could probably teach you a few. It's totally amazing. But the bottom line is there are two curse words that people in recovery have a hard time with. So, and please excuse me for cursing, okay? There's two powerful curse words, reality and responsibility. So please excuse me for cursing. You got to face reality. It is what it is, and take responsibility for your own life. Self-respect means I am responsible. And that means I can't play the blame game anymore. I can't blame institutions. I can't blame this. I am responsible for my journey and for my life, and that's personal respect. The last question is, do you care about yourself? I learned a long time ago the importance of self-care. To be able to look at myself physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and to invest in myself as a person. If I truly do take care of my body, then my spirit and my emotions will be connected also. So it's my responsibility. And caring for yourself is actually an adventure. It's a lot of fun because it means you get to know who you are, to celebrate who you are as a person, and to realize that each and every one of us is so beautiful and so unique. Along with the 4 questions, we have what we call the 5 spiritual principles. Now, I have little words for them. The first spiritual principle, very simply, is DDT. DDT. Now, please, it's not an insecticide, but DDT. Don't do your drug of choice today. All of us have our drug of choice. It might be codependency. It might be enabling. It might be a lot of different things. It might be a substance abuse. But for one day and one day only, stay away from negative behavior. Stay away from your drug of choice. And so we learn something in this principle, to live life one day at a time. I'm going to tell you a big secret today. Please don't tell anybody, okay? Make sure you don't tell anybody. It's important. It's a big secret. I'm sorry. Yesterday is over. It's done. It happened. You see, I can face yesterday, embrace it, learn from it, and grow from it. But I got to tell you a big secret. You can't change it. Sorry. And so, yeah, we have a history. We have to embrace our history. And so yesterday's done. Tomorrow is not here. So therefore, it only leaves one simple little day, and that's today. Isn't that amazing? I used to love the old timers in AA. The old timers used to say, you only have recovery for one day only. And we used to laugh at them because we had a guy there, I won't mention any names, but he probably had about 500 years sobriety. Who the hell knows? Because if you asked him how long he was sober, he'd say, 4 o'clock this morning, one day only. And that takes away all that nonsense about trying to perform. You do the best you can for one day. And nobody on the face of this earth does anything perfectly. Screwing up is part of life. Come on. And therefore, we have to just take things one day at a time. And if I do the best I can for today, that's all I can do. Now, will I do it perfectly? I hope not. Please. Perfectionism is insanity. At the same time, I have to learn something about yesterday. So I'm going to give you one of my favorite spiritual words. It's a very powerful word. I love this word. The word is fertilizer. I want to meditate on fertilizer now. Okay? You know, this is a good one. Fertilizer. What does fertilizer come from? It comes from, I gotta be good, comes from manure or crap, as you want to use the term. You take this beautiful thing called crap or manure and you process it. It becomes fertilizer for things to grow. So I often learned that from my dad. You know, I learned a lot of stories from my dad. I grew up in the 40s in Camden, and my father was a farmer. He came from Italy. In our backyard in Camden, we had a farm. And on the railroad yards, we had a farm. When I was a kid, my father gave me a job. Now, of course, when your father gave you a job when you were a kid back then, you did it. So my father gave me a bucket and a little shovel. And back in those days, we had horses pulling stuff. I had to wait for the horses to leave a deposit, scoop the manure up and bring it home. For every bucket of horse manure I brought home, my father gave me a nickel. Now, a nickel was a lot of money back then. I could do a triple feature at the movies for a nickel. Okay, it was a little different world back then. But anyway, my father would take that manure, put it in the ground, and he had beautiful plants. I was in the backyard one day, and my father said, "Wayon Venequat." That means little boy, come here. You know, I don't care how old I was still a little boy to him. Come here. I said, "What, Pop?" He said, "Pick up a handful of soil." I picked it up. He said, "I want you to taste it." I said, "You got to be kidding me. We dumped all that manure in the ground. You want me to taste the soil?" I said, "What are you, crazy?" Don't ever call your father crazy, please. Anyway, he said, "Listen to me, little boy. That manure we put in the ground has been changed into vitamins and minerals for these things to grow." He told me a story. My father was in the First World War in the Italian cavalry. You ever saw the movie War Horse? My father rode one of those suckers in the First World War. He said when his regiment ran out of food, the farmers used to eat soil to stay alive because the soil had vitamins and minerals in it. If you study Indian culture, they talk about this all the time, about learning from the soil, the connection. So it's a beautiful thing about life. So I learned from my dad all the crap I did in my life. And that's what the fourth and fifth step, sixth and seventh step is all about. If I process it and get in touch with it, instead of running away from it, learn lessons from it, it becomes my fertilizer for growth today. And so if you take it one day at a time, keep it simple, and look at yesterday as a learning process. And tomorrow, get rid of fear of the unknown, because the journey will take us where we're supposed to go if we take it one day at a time. The second spiritual principle is 3 letters. PPT. Persons, places, and things. Now, unfortunately, even as codependents, we have a tendency to migrate towards negative persons, places, and things. Want to know why? Because we're used to something called the codependent crazies. We're used to insanity and craziness, and sometimes many of us thrive on it. We thrive on conflict. And so they tell you in recovery, hang around healthy, positive people. I'm going to tell you a secret. This is really scary. See these healthy, positive people? They have this thing called serenity, inner peace, and tranquility. They are so boring. It's unbelievable. God, they're boring. You know, they enjoy each day. They have a cup of coffee. They smile. They relax. You know, you think something's wrong with them. They're enjoying life. But see, we're good codependents. We like the crazies. We like insanity. If we don't have some, we create some. What the hell? The bottom line is we have to learn to be able to hang around people that are healthy and positive. If you hang around them long enough, you actually will catch what they have. You'll start to relax and enjoy life. But to do that, you got to shut this thing off. This nut tower, I call it, the control tower, the manipulation tower. Got to shut it off. You get with life. The third spiritual principle, there's 2 letters. Getting better, only 2 letters. HP, higher power. Now, I'm going to talk about the higher power, but the old timers in AA used to talk about higher power by asking you to join what they called the Higher Power Club or the 4-H Club. The 4 H's they used to describe higher power as anything that will keep me honest, humble, humor, have a sense of humor, and heal is my higher power for today. I've learned very simply some of the principles, things I've learned in this program, that every day, and the old timers used to tell me this, they used to say, when you get up in the morning, get down on your knees. They always talked about your knees as being signs of humility. In my life, I do that every morning, get on my knees. That's why I have calluses on my knees. I've learned this a long time ago. And just say the magical words, ask for help and ask for guidance. And don't worry about who you're asking. Stop trying to figure it out. I used to love them. Just ask for help, and at night say thank you. And so I try my best in the morning to basically do this. And so in the morning when I get up, I get on my knees, say my third, seventh, and step and 10th, my third, seventh, and 11th step prayers. Ask for openness. Ask to be open to the joy of the day. I always tell them, here's my prayer. I call God the boss. I say, hey, boss, whatever you got in store for me, do me a favor. I'm the employee. You're the boss. Whatever you got in store, bring it on. And yet I'm a good codependent. I have a scheduling book, everything's scheduled for the day. But I love every time you tell God to be in charge, he always screws up your damn day. He always kind of takes you in another whole different direction. But he's taking you where you're supposed to go. So it always comes along and messes it up. Isn't that wonderful? And that's good for us. But we have to learn to stop thinking we have to have everything under control all the time. That's not how life is supposed to be. We have to open it up. And that's why this concept of honesty and humility is so beautiful and good. And at nighttime, before I go to bed, the old timers say, get on your knees, say thank you, say goodnight. Now, I'm a little bit different. I'm Italian. So, I got to say goodnight in kind of a special way. I get on my knees, say my 10th step prayer, say goodnight. And then before I go to bed, I have to go over and say goodnight. My wife used to have angels on her bureau. And so because I'm Italian, I got to say goodnight to all the angels. I got to kiss them. Kiss all them angels goodnight. I go to my bureau, I got the Blessed Mother and I got St. Anthony. I give them both a hug and a kiss and say goodnight to them. My wife told me it's the only girlfriend I'm allowed to have. It takes care of that. So I'm all set up in that direction. And then I finally get on my knees, say goodnight again. And before I go to bed, I always say, good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are. Those of you who know my generation know Mrs. Calabash. Jimmy Durante, a famous comedian, said that every night. They asked Jimmy, who's Mrs. Calabash? He said, she represents my wife and every other human being on the face of the earth. Before I go to bed, I try to say goodnight to everybody connected to my life and ask God to take care of the people on the earth. Then you go to sleep, but I have to add something else because I'm Italian. I say, good night, God. I'll see you in the morning, maybe. If I don't, I'll catch you on the other side. See how simple it is? You go to sleep. I've learned the concept of higher power is stop trying to figure it out. We make ourselves nuts sometimes. I remember working at Charter Fairmont Rehab years ago. We had this Jewish guy named Bernie. And I got to tell you, Bernie was a character, actually. I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a minute. Bernie used to bug me. I used to give lectures there. Bernie come up to me and he'd say, Father, who's my higher power? Come on, tell me who it is. He made me nuts after a while. So one day I said, Bernie, come here. I grabbed him by the back of the neck. See, in those days, we could do that. I took him outside. There was a tree outside. I said, Bernie, come out here every day, and I want you to ask the tree to keep you sober. At nighttime, come out here and thank the tree for keeping you sober and give it a hug. I came back a week later and I said, you talk to the tree? Yeah. Are you still sober? Yeah. The tree's your higher power. Leave me alone. Don't bother me no more. That takes care of you. We're done. I laugh about Bernie because Bernie eventually became a therapist and a counselor at Starting Point. And Bernie, died a few years ago, and I had to tell that story at his funeral. Bernie Stiefel was one of our great counselors here at Starting Point, and I met him that day. And he always said to me, you know, Vince, I still talk to the damn tree. And that's great. So I realized today. See, I've learned to quit the debating society. Whatever works for anybody. That's what keeps you honest and keeps you humble. Have a sense of humor sometimes and relax a little bit. These are the secrets of the things we do in life. And that's why this constant spirituality means to get in touch with my spirit. And my spirit should have these things in it. I can learn and heal, and I can also laugh and enjoy life a little bit too. Like I tell you all the time, if you don't think you're funny, do me a favor, will you? When you wake up tomorrow morning, go look in the mirror. If you don't laugh, you're really sick. That's the funniest thing on the face of the earth. What can I tell you? We learn to laugh at ourselves, to loosen up a little bit, relax a little bit. Okay, Loretta, don't forget that. It's important. It's all part of the stuff we have to do as a family. So I've learned over and over again, you know, to quit the debating society, to stop trying to figure it out. Whatever works. And I keep that simple in the course of my journey in life. And I've been around the rooms of recovery for a long time, and I've heard tons of stories. But so many times people try to figure this out. You can't. Just ask for help, have gratitude, be open, laugh at life, and go through it even when it's not funny. It's part of the journey. The fourth spiritual principle are 3 letters. The letters are G-O-D, God. Now, we have a simple definition of God in recovery. It's simple. God, I hate being simple. God, so easy. G-O-D, good, orderly direction. In short, shut up and listen. I never forget some of the guys telling me that. They used to say, put duct tape over your mouth, then your ears will work. Simple and plain. But see, we're codependents. Of course, you know, we're scared of the duct tape. So we keep trying to figure it out and analyze it and put it together. And we have to learn to listen, follow direction, be open to new things, open new areas of life. And to realize the fact that through faith and belief, everything will come our way. Things will happen, but we have to get out of the way. That's why I love that concept of recovery, good, orderly direction. Then there's the other part of it, EGO, ego, ease God out. And so we have to learn to let these things flow inside of us, because I truly believe the higher power, whatever you choose to call that, it's not important what you choose to call it. But for you, it is. That's it. It flows through us. The energy of the spirit comes out of us. And that's what's so important. And I've learned over the years, every human being I meet on the face of this earth is a teacher, even the most obnoxious ones in the world. Now, I'll share a couple of stories with you. When I did my training as a counselor at DRC in Philadelphia, it was a rehab for street people. And Jack R., my great teachers, I love him to this day, God rest his soul. Jack was my mentor. And my first job as a young priest, 37 years old, was to go downstairs in the men's quarters and give them baths when they came in off the streets. And a few of them we had to delouse. And I had one guy, actually, I'll never forget that. We couldn't get his clothes off. He'd been in them for so long. He had probably urinated in him and everything. We had to soak him in a tub to get the tub. We were afraid his skin would come off with the clothes. Now, I'll never forget, he said, while you're down there, he said, every time one of those people comes through the door, you say, but for the grace of God, but for the grace of God. They are your teachers. And he said, don't smell too good down there, he said. I still remember that smell. But it'll keep you honest, it'll keep you humble. You'll learn to follow direction. I used to say to Jack, what's this got to do with counseling? He said, it's good humility. It's good humility. After a month, I said to Jack, Jack, think I could do something else besides just giving people baths? He said, yeah, you can be the janitor for the next month. I said, thank you very much, Jack. I said, don't even say it. I know. It's good humility. What got me ready to become the director is Starting Point. Because in Starting Point, you know, I learned how to clean up different types of things, how to fix this, how to take care of the bathrooms when they clog up. So he got me ready. What can I tell you? But I've learned about that's what life really is all about. It's not about things being orderly. We have to follow direction, be open to direction, and know that we can learn from other people in our lives. We all need structure and direction, but we have to learn to be flexible with it and be open with it, but to realize eventually it begins to work. You know, I remember so many times in the course of my journey, and I will share another great story. One of my great teachers, Joe P. Joe P. ran a rehab in Northeast Philly called Riverside House, which I always had dear to my heart. It's not there anymore, but it was there for a long time. A lot of people got sober there. But Joe had a nickname for that rehab. He called it Recovery Boot Camp. Went into that rehab for 28 days. You had no contact with the outside world. They brainwashed you into recovery. But you know what's ironical? A lot of people went to that rehab one time and stayed straight. It's totally amazing. But boy, they drove you. They worked you. And I'm learning over and over again, following direction is a beautiful thing in life, but we don't always like it. Another great story I'll share with you is my father, what a teacher. You know, first of all, I want to give you a warning. Don't work for your dad. Anyway, when I was in the seminary in the summertime, I worked for my father, and I worked on the section gang on the railroad. You know, we laid track. It's my first day on the job. I'll never forget it. I got all dressed in my work outfit, and I got to the job, and the gang was sitting around having coffee. And I said to my dad, "What do you want me to do, Pop?" He said, "Take this shovel. See that pile of coal over there? I want you to move that pile of coal from there over to here." Okay. The gang went out to work on the track, and I got the shovel, and I said, "I'm going to really prove what a great worker I am to my father." I worked my can off to get that pile of coal moved by lunchtime. I got the whole thing moved. We sat down, had lunch. I was like a proud peacock. You know, I was sitting there all strutting, you know, what a great job I did. I was thoroughly exhausted. So at the end of lunch, I said to Dad, "What do you want me to do now, Dad?" He said, "Move it back." I said, "What?" He said, "Move it back." I said, "You're kidding me." He said, "No, move it back." So in the afternoon, I moved it back. But every shovelful, I had a very interesting name for my father, you know, and I wanted to take the shovel and hit him over the head with it. But I know I can't do that. So later on, when I got home, I said, "Why did you embarrass me so much?" He said, "Little boy, you listen to me. Every man on the job moved that pile of coal on the first day. I'm going to teach you something. We're a family, our gang, we're laying track. That track has to be precise. We work as a team. We follow direction. We don't go out on our own. We have to work together. We're lifting up rails that weigh tons. We're doing things together as a unit. If somebody's going to get hurt, I had to find out whether you're going to follow direction or not. You see, you can't be a hero in this job. You'll kill somebody. And that track has to be laid properly, or a train can derail. I learned a lot from my dad, but I learned that concept of direction. And we all need this in our life. The last spiritual principle is a little three-letter word. You probably heard the word in religion a lot. The word is S-I-N. Now, don't get nervous. S-I-N, sin. I know for many people that strikes fear into the hearts of many. But the bottom line is there's only one sin that people in recovery can commit. The rest don't count. I'm sorry. We call them character defects. We have steps 6 and 7 to take care of them. Only one, and that is to give up on yourself. Never, never, never give up. Keep coming back. Everything we do is only for one day. It's a process, and we never know. I always love telling the story. I probably have told this story 1,000 times. It's a very special story to me. I met this gentleman in Atlantic City when I was stationed there as a priest. You know, his name was Elijah Smith. We called him Smitty for short. And I love Smitty. Smitty's one of these guys who really had a hard time staying sober. He lived in a tough area of Atlantic City, North Carolina, and Baltic Avenue. I recommend anybody living there. He would be in and out of rehabs. He would try to stay straight. He would beg and try to stay straight and everything. I worked hard. One day we found Smitty dead in his apartment from a drug overdose. A few of us got together and we did a funeral for Smitty. I did the funeral. We took him to Atlantic City Cemetery, and a few of us got there. We chipped in and bought a little tombstone that's on his grave. The tombstone says, "Smitty's sober today." If you came into the old starting point, and I have it right here in my office because I have the memorabilia from the old starting point here, we had a plaque on the wall that was dedicated to Smitty as the symbol of the recovering person. Why? He did the best he could. He gave it the best shot. And now we know he's connected. And I believe that very deeply because now it's one of the reasons why I put the memorial wall in the starting point. I don't want to forget anybody. We're all connected to one another. We're all part of one another. And that's why every day, every Wednesday when I do my lectures, I do a prayer service at the wall because the wall is part of who we really are. It's part of our journey. And therefore, we have to remember that it's the journey that counts. We don't know how long it's going to be. And there is no such thing as a failure. There is no failures. We just do the best we can do. We make our mistakes. We take it one day at a time. So spirituality to me is being able to get in touch with my personal spirit. It's to love myself, like myself, respect myself, and care for myself to the best of my ability each day that I'm on this earth. I learned to do that one day at a time and try to keep it simple and try to remember the word fertilizer. We all got our fertilizer we got to work on. I've also learned to hang around good, healthy, positive people. That's what I'm doing today, hanging around a bunch of good, healthy, positive people. You learn from them. It's hard sometimes to change. It's hard sometimes to get away from the craziness and the insanity and enjoy life. Wake up in gratitude to your higher power, whatever you choose to call that. And just know that the higher power works for each and every one of us. I don't debate anymore. And that's what's so important. You know, let me take a minute before we go on to the prayer and finish up those last two principles. I want to share another story with you. It just came into my mind. Never forget this story. I got 18,000 stories. I could tell you stories all day. I have so much fun with this. I can't help it. Anyway, I got to tell you this story, a South Philadelphia story. You'll enjoy a South Philly story. See, back in the days when I was in South Philly with the halfway houses, everybody in South Philly, I would say about 92% of South Philly was always Italian. The Italians are weird. They really are. You know why they're weird? Because basically they give everybody the same names. It's either Maria, Teresa, Conchetta, Gabrielle. The guys got the same names, Vinny, Tony, Anthony, Charlie, all that kind of crazy stuff. It's because everybody had the same names. We give everybody had a nickname. So we had this guy that snuck into South Philly. He was an Irishman. How he got in, we have no idea. I think he crawled under the barbed wire. Anyway, since he was in South Philly, we gave him a nickname. His nickname was Chug-a-Lug. And we call him Chug-a-Lug because he drank a little bit too much. And every time he got drunk and he got high, he'd go into a bar at 23rd and Moore in the Point Breeze section of South Philly, a bar called Porgy's Bar. It was an all African-American bar. He'd go in there and he'd utter some very interesting names. The owner of the bar was named Porgy. Porgy clocked in at about 270. Porgy would literally knock him out, throw him over his shoulder, come to the halfway starting point that was right down the street, knock on the door, and he'd say, "Father, either you take him or we're going to kill him." So we took him. We got him straight. 2 more times he went into that damn bar. Porgy kept bringing him back. When he finally got sober and was telling his story, he said, the reason I'm sober today is because I found my higher power. My higher power's name is Porgy. And so Porgy became his higher power, because if it wasn't for Porgy, you'd be dead today. And I love these stories because, they're so powerful. That's one I experienced myself. But the stories are so beautiful and so fantastic because it's the humanness of the stories that connect us together and show us what life is. And since I am telling a story, Loretta, I got to do this. I got to tell one more story. This is a fun part about this. I can't help it. This is my signature story. Okay, I got to dedicate this one to Patrice and Terry and everybody in here. So have some fun with this one. Okay, we'll go from there. Okay, LJ, hang in there for this one. Here we go. And John, I know you're going to appreciate it. Anyway, I'm going back a lot of years, to the 70s. We used to do things we can't do today. It was a different world back then. So I used to go to meetings over at the South Philly Clubhouse. And we had this guy that came to the clubhouse. His name was Little Joe. Little Joe would come to the South Philly Clubhouse, but he was always drunk and high. He'd come in and disrupt the meeting. We'd take him outside, we talk to him. He'd come back in, he'd disrupt it again. I think he was like our personal bug. He would drive us nuts. So one day we decided we had enough of Joe. So we got together, we got some rope when Joe came in, and we tied Joe up. Now, nobody would put him in a car because he stunk. We're going to bring him to treatment. And so we found a rug laying in the street. We laid Joe in the rug, rolled it up, and duct taped it shut. A friend of mine from South Philly works for an undertaker. We borrowed the hearse. We slid Joe in the back of the hearse, took him to Camden Detox, took him out of the hearse, put him on our shoulders, and we sang Amazing Grace as we brought him into detox. We had so much fun. We had a Polaroid camera, took a shot of him in the rug, in the hearse, going into detox. When he got sober, we gave him to him. I always loved that story because Joe later on got into recovery and was my house manager in South Philly for the house. One of my house managers, little grumpy, little grouchy, but good guy, and basically we used to call him the little drill sergeant. But basically it's just interesting how this process of life works. And Joe used to always say, they got me in recovery, they stuck me in a damn rug. He said, but you know what? I'm glad they did now. So he honors those photographs. He gets a big kick out of them all the time. So we pray for Joe's on our wall back here at Starting Point. He passed on. But I look back on these stories, I look at them and everything else. We can't tie people up today, although I can think of about 15 people I love to tie up and bring to treatment, but I can't do that. I'll be good. I promise. And Loretta keeps me straight now, so it's not a problem. But the bottom line is, and that's why the other principle of following direction, getting guidance, and never giving up. Stay connected. And so what I want to do over the next weeks is talk about the steps. To me, the steps are one of the greatest gifts God has ever given me on the face of this earth. They are the principles of life. They're simple, they work, and what I love so much about them is the steps were put together way back in 1935 and 39 by a group of recovering drunks. Now think about that for a minute. They had to be divinely inspired. But they're principles that are taken from all the great writings of the world, the Bible, the Torah, some of the most great and wonderful writings. The principles of life is all they are. The Tao Te Ching, all those beautiful principles to live by. And so I'm going to share them with you over the weeks to come. And so I hope understand spirituality just a little bit better. And next week we'll begin by doing step 1, which I consider one of the most powerful foundations of the 12 steps. And then we'll take and work on the steps over the weeks to come. So I want to thank you for coming today. I really enjoy giving this talk because this is my favorite talk. It brings so many memories back to me. It's unbelievable. So thanks for putting up with me today, but I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. So I want to kind of close out with a prayer, and that prayer will connect to our memorial wall. If Loretta can get it up there, we'll see what happens with it. Okay. Let us pray. God, we have so much to be grateful for, so much gratitude and so much love. Teach us to realize the fact that all those people that have gone on the journey along with us, they're part of our family. Thank you, God. And every day I ask for your help, your guidance, and your direction, that all of us may ask for your guidance. And every night we say thank you. Thank you for the gift of this day. Thank you for the people we are connected to. Thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for those who have gone before us. Thank you for those who have struggled to teach us what struggling is all about. We're so grateful, so powerful, and so beautiful. We thank you, Lord, and we're grateful for you. So we come together as a family today in prayer. We pray that our spirit may grow and come closer to you, that all of us on our journey may be open to learn new things and move in new directions. So we pray this and we ask this guidance of your guidance and direction. We ask this in your name each and every day of our life. We thank you in gratitude. We ask for your help and guidance, and we pray for you in love. We thank you in love and peace. And we say this in true humility, in true openness, and true growth. We ask this in your name. Amen. Now I'm going to ask all of you to please unmute yourself, and we'll kind of close with the serenity prayer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.